Good morning, everyone. Thank you on behalf of the family, on behalf of Riverside Wesleyan Church for being here and celebrating life. Truly, celebrating life. That's what we are doing. While we all always struggle through the challenges, the suffering, the pain of losing a loved one, we are still celebrating life because life continues on. Even though it doesn't continue here, it continues on nonetheless. So I'm going to ask you, if you would you just allow me to pray and just to pray with you, if you'd bow your heads with me. Thank you, O Lord, Father of heaven, Father of mercies and all comfort. Look with compassion, O Lord, upon us. Calm our minds, our hearts, simply at your great command. Grant that this service, O Lord, brings comfort to all who hear. Come and be in our presence with your holy name. And just simply bring a sense of heaven and even heavenly nearness right here as we put our trust in you. And may the peace of Christ, the peace that passes all understanding, come and be with us, rest upon us, and all that are here, and all that watch this video. Thank you, Lord, for life present, and even life past that we consider here on earth. We welcome you in Jesus' name. Amen. We are here to celebrate the life of Charles Michael Anthony Rudolph Coppola. If you don't recognize that name, you might be in the wrong spot. So you might want to make your short exit here soon, because we're going to have a good time and you're going to hear some great stuff. I just want to give you just a couple things. If in a few minutes we're going to have and open up a talk. Anybody want to share? You might be thinking about that. You don't have to. Being up in front of a microphone with people is scary enough. But as you gather some thoughts, maybe there might be something that you want to say to encourage. Try to keep it to a couple sentences, and just be thinking about that now, as we'll open that up in a few minutes. On behalf of the family, just thank you for all of your warm love and all of your thoughts and prayers, as well as your continued support. I know that the family, and those especially who are close, the family appreciate all that goes on and all that's been going on over the last few days. The purpose that we are here is to pay tribute and respect for a loved one. In reality, there is no way that anyone can stand up here and say enough good things and or preach anyone's sermon for a funeral. Simply because we are already preaching our funeral as we live. So think about that just for a second. You're preaching your funeral today as you live. It's no different in Charley's case. That which he lived, that's what he impacted you and impacted others. That is his legacy. That is what his life was all about. That's what this day is all about. He has touched you. He's impacted you somehow, some way. And you are here to pay tribute to that today as we celebrate. Romans 14:7 says, "For none of us lives to himself." None of us lives to himself, and none of us dies to himself. As we all recognize, there's legacy, there's things that continue on, things that move beyond our time, our space, even long after someone passes away from us. So his life will continue to speak meaningful things to you, things that have touched your life, that have resonated with you somehow in some way. Charley will always live in your memories. That's the point. That's what it's all about. That's what today is. And while sometimes our thoughts are captured short today because of the emotional confines of just the moment that we're in a few days you'll eventually remember some things. I just want to encourage you from the get-go to send Judy, to send the family, just a card of, hey, I thought about this and just thought I'd remember and share this with you. That would be such great help. It's easy for the short run for us to love today and maybe this week, but in a month from now, in a couple months from now, Judy still will be struggling. The family will still be struggling with the loss. So just some things I think are always worthwhile in hearing and some things that we are here to celebrate and why we're here. So, the better part and the best part of the service, no doubt, is that Judy and Emily at least are going to start, and they're going to come and they're going to share a little bit of what all this life is right up here in these pictures. So, Judy, if you would come.
Okay. Wish me luck. Okay, how does this go? I'm too tall. You're probably going to have to crank up the sound. My voice is really soft. Anyway, thank you so much for coming. I know I have people from out of town that have taken the effort to come today. Many people couldn't. Summer, after all, people are having fun. Who wants to come to something like that? No, they did want to come, honestly. They did want to come. That seems like it's right in my face. Here, let's bring it down a little bit. How was that? Okay. Anyway, yeah, you probably notice I'm not wearing black. I'm not wearing black. We're going to have a video after this, so I have to talk in the microphone. I decided to wear the wedding dress I wore when Charley and I got married. Here it goes. Because I don't want this day to be sad. It was very quick. He went really quick. But I want to focus on what we liked about Charley and his vibrant personality. I mean, he kept me up, always. He always had a smile on his face for me every minute, even when he wasn't feeling well. He would make his goofy faces that he makes. So let's celebrate. Let's talk about the good times and heal, because this was so quick for everybody. So here we go. All right. I hate reading stuff because it makes me sound stupid, and I forgive my classy glasses I have on. All right. First of all, I want to thank you who've written directly to Charley and who've also expressed your sympathies to me during his last days of cancer. Charley did read each and every card and email and expressed to me, at least, that he was extremely exhausted, that he was very much appreciated, every one of them, and had a comment about each one. I only wish he had the strength to see you in person or to speak to you over the phone. I'm very sorry for that. But he was extremely exhausted most of the time, and to feel that he had to dress and groom for any visitors was just more than he could do. His emotional conversations over the phone were too much to contemplate. He just couldn't bring himself to do it. He took stock of his life and character and felt that he did everything with love, ethics, kindness, and honesty. He told me he had a good, long life and was ready to go, and really had no interest in being feeble and old. I'm somewhat comforted by that. And I lost my sister, and she was not ready, and that's not fun. And when it became impossible for him to play golf, well, that was really the last straw. As some of you experienced, it took him very little time to make decisions or judgments. He was just a very decisive person. He could meet someone and within moments know if they were a person to like and trust, and if they were not, he moved on, no problem. He pretty much only saw black and white. Myself, on the other hand, often have a difficult time making decisions. I'm much more of a light gray to dark gray to then back to light gray. Just don't get me in a voting booth. It's kind of scary. But he was a good partner for me. His decisiveness dovetailed nicely in with my indecisiveness. As an example, the day, here we go. The day we found out he had cancer, I had been crying and decided I needed a drink. So I kept walking back and forth. Wine, margarita, I'm crying. I can't make a decision. He says, margarita. So I had a margarita. Anyway, what made Charley? Charley, oh my gosh, he was 78. I've spent 38 of those years trying to figure out Charley. When we first met, he seemed incredibly confident, incredibly competent, and incredibly generous. And he was all three, but he was also incredibly complex. To explain that complexity requires a bit of his family history. So I'm going to try and do a little bio and things that only a spouse would know, right? I mean, there's just a lot about Charley. Charles Michael Anthony Rudolph Coppola. His birth name was Charles Michael, but Anthony Rudolph, I believe, were his christening names. He was actually what do you call it? Catholic school, Catholic church. He was, one of those little boys that helped the priest. Thank you. Yeah, wasn't in my notes. Okay, he was an altar boy. So he had that upbringing. Decided he didn't like some of the corruption, and decided that he wasn't a believer. So it's kind of interesting how that all came together. Anyway, he was born May 30th, 1938, just had a birthday, in New Rochelle, New York. He had one brother, Eugene Jr. His father, Eugene Sr., worked at a place called Jenkins Valve, and I just found out about this. He made metal valves for machines or something, and so I guess he was very mechanical. His mom, Josephine, was a housewife. I don't have any record of any employment. Of course, she got married when she was 18. She was just a little girl. Eugene, his dad, was 1/4 African American, 1/4 American Indian, and half Italian. Josephine was full-blooded Italian, and that makes Charley 3/4 Italian and the rest Black and American Indian. So that's how he got the dark complexion. So he just decided that's okay. I'm a mixed. In those days it was a little different. It was a little harder, a lot of prejudice. But anyway, they lived in a time and a place where Italians generally did not mix with colored people, and probably vice versa. But Charley told me that prejudice was in full force, and being dark-skinned, his brother Gene was light-skinned. It kind of caused a problem. So when Charley was pretty young, around 1, his mother and father separated, and they ended up splitting up the entire family, even the 2 boys. His dad and Charley moved in with his dad's parents, his fraternal grandparents, and his mom kept his brother, Gene, they called him, and moved into a lodging residence. So that's what the record shows. So she, they probably just didn't have very much money, and that seemed to be a way to resolve all of that. Anyway, Charley's dad went into the army to serve in the war, and tragically, Eugene, his father, was killed. Charley remained living with Grandpa Antonio and Grandma Loretta. I could only guess how much that hurt him by losing his dad and not being with his mom. But Charley said that instead of breaking him and making him feel unwanted, he was very happy and loved his grandparents. They were the most kind and generous people you could ever hope for, and his grandma was a wonderful, round, Black American Indian lady and had lots and lots of love to give. And as a sideline, I wanted to say that just a kind of idea of the kind of people that these people were to be raised by. His grandmother was the most gracious and loving and caring person that I found out that her future husband, this Italian boy that was like 19 years old that came to America, didn't know a lick of English. He became ill, and I don't know how it all came together, but she took him in. She took him in and made him well. And they eventually got married. So that's the kind of person that she was. And there was another person in the household that ended up living there until she was able to get on her own as well. So these really good quality people. And I'll get back to my notes because I get lost here. Anyway, the grandmother worked as a mom, a housewife, and a cook, but she also worked outside of the home at a dry cleaner's where she sweated away pressing fine clothing. Apparently a very hard-working person. His grandpa was a first generation Italian. Antonio immigrated to the United States as a very young man, like I said. He worked very hard for the city of New Rochelle as a laborer in the sewers and drains department. He was a firm grandparent, but incredibly kind. He and Charley made homemade wine and always grew a tomato garden, which he still has at home. Charley has followed in his footsteps and always grown tomatoes in our yard, and I'm hoping to keep on that tradition. I don't know, we'll see. But the greatest gift of his grandparents gave him was the sense that he could do anything in the world if he set his mind to it and was willing to work very hard. The best lesson you can ever give a kid. Which leads to all of Charley's adventures. We always had a great conversation about his childhood. Always good memories. Even when he and his best friend were chased out of the neighbor's garden for stealing their tomatoes, his zest for life would not allow for anything to be undone. His list of jobs between the age of 12 and 19 is dizzying. The jobs that I recollect, water, just a moment. Okay, paper boy, bowling pin boy. Remember the days when boys had to put the pins up? The machine didn't do it. Upholsterer assistant. He upholstered stuff, amazing. Print shop assistant. He helped clean up and also helped to actually do the printing when he was a kid. Laundry delivery boy, probably for his mom. Industrial spray painter. He worked in a carnival in the Kill the Cats game and helped set up rides and take them down again. He says, you'd be surprised at what those things are held together with. Glue, it's pretty scary. Also at the carnival, he drove a semi-truck for the very first time as a young man. He was a waiter, a cook in an Italian restaurant. I guess that's what sparked his gourmet instinct. I loved his food, and I have to cook now. It's not good. And on and on. And this was just in his very young years. Later on, in his adult years, he served in the Army 2 different times from about 57 to 59, and then was called back in for the Korean conflict, right in the middle, you're getting on with your life and you got called back. So he served actually 2 times, and he served for about a year. But one interesting fact is that while he was serving the first time at a base in the Midwest, he convinced the officers that they needed to improve the officers' dining hall. Well, you know how Charley is about salesmanship. After all, they were officers, not just the mere enlisted. He suggested a beautiful mural on the wall. He, of course, drew up drawings and some ideas that he proceeded to spend all of his service time, or almost all of his service time, painting that mural. Smart guy. Sounds a little like Tom Sawyer to me. Upon leaving the service, he came home to New York and went to art school to learn graphic design. And he did all of his schooling at night while working as a teletype operator. That's a dinosaur, isn't it? In a sugar brokerage with a dazzling view of the Statue of Liberty. He showed me that when we went to New York. It was, what a view. He got a job with his usual charm and confidence. They asked him if he could touch type, and of course he said yes. And then he proceeded to hunt and peck as fast as he could. Oh. Once he completed high school, he found his first graphic design job at a very large advertising agency in New York City. During this time, probably mid-60s, he took a vacation in Jamaica and had the time of his life. He loved it. He just wanted to live there forever. So he decided, I'm going to move there. I'm going to make this happen. So he came back to New York City, gave notice 2 weeks later, and moved lock, stock, and barrel to Kingston, Jamaica. With his graphic design skills, he was able to get a job at a local advertising agency, and in the evenings, he taught design at a Jamaican art school. After working there and living there and loving it for 2 blissful years, he made a huge mistake. He found himself very outspoken regarding the government and the way it was run. And he happened to share those thoughts and feelings with his students. Well, the word got out around to the wrong people, the government. And if you think back at around, I don't know, early 60s, what the government was like. Unfortunately, the government was not very understanding and did not like his rabble-rousing and knocked on his door one day and told him he had to leave Jamaica immediately. Wow, what a shock. He was in paradise, and that's it. You're out. Well, he naturally objected and said, well, it was impossible to leave immediately. What would I do with all my things? He had furniture, personal items, and et cetera, that he'd have to arrange to bring back to the United States, because he took everything, right? They insisted, and they were a little scary. They assured him that they would ship everything to him, just give him his address, bye-bye. So he packed his clothes, and off he went. Bye-bye paradise. Days went by. Weeks went by. No furniture. No family photos. No personal items. After continuous probing to no avail, all of his things disappeared. To this day, I have just one fuzzy school photo of Charley as a probably grade school age that was actually obtained recently on microfilm. It's the only way we got it. No photos of his parents, grandparents, nothing. I still don't know what his dad or his mom or his brother looked like. It was all taken from him on that fateful day to Jamaica. And then after Charley came back to New York City, he managed to get his job back at the advertising agency. One day while reading the newspaper, he read about this place in Sacramento, California, and the Animal Protection Institute. I don't even know if they're around anymore. Charley has always had a soft heart when it comes to cruelty to animals, or any injustice, truly. They were looking for financial donations. He saw it in the paper, or a mailer came or something. They were looking for financial donations for their cause, but what struck him was the poor graphics. Opportunity knocks again. So Charley decided to write a letter. He wrote to the manager of API and said, I would like to support your Animal Protection Institute, but not with cash. If you would allow me, I would like to redesign all of your fundraising materials for free. And he explained who he was and what his job was. And after that letter, the manager happened to be coming to New York, met Charley, convinced him to move to California, and hired him. And in a matter of weeks, Charley was on the road to California, all the way from New York. It was in the early to mid-70s at the time. And there was also a rift in his family due to the two sides of the family. He had a difficult time with his brother and decided, this is a perfect time to make his break and leave those problems behind. And he left them stone cold behind. Never contacted his brother again. I don't even know if he's still living. And he didn't contact any extended cousins. Once he was done, he was done. But one of his cousins found him in 2002. But I'm going to get back to that later, so keep that thought. Anyway, meanwhile, back to the trip to California. California was a big change for Charley after New York City. He had been on the road for days and days, driving up through Canada to our Golden State. When he got into California, he was really puzzled about the freeways. It's just so different. And the long stretches of roads. In fact, he discovered this really long stretch of road that went on for miles and miles, and right next to the freeway. It was very odd. He stopped at a gas station and remarked that there's this road that I've been seeing all the way through California into Sacramento. It's the longest road I've ever seen. Have you heard of it? It's called Frontage Road. He was always good for a laugh. I mean, he thought it was, anyway. You could always get a big laugh out of Charley, and anyway, at the Animal Protection Institute, besides being their art director, he was also certified as an officer to investigate animal cruelty cases. He saw some very heartbreaking situations. After the job came to its natural end, Charley was employed by this advertising agency called Brown, Clark, and Elkis. And if you've been in Sacramento very long, I'm sure you've heard of it. He worked on some of the largest accounts in Sacramento at the time. He made a name for himself and eventually decided to own his own graphic design company, which he named Coppola Graphic Design Studio. That's where our paths meet in 1978. I applied for a job. I had my daughter, who was 4.5 years old. Actually, the first time we met, she was 3.5, and she hid behind my leg. My husband and I were divorcing, and I needed to find employment. Fortunately, I found Charley. With many tries to get work for myself with little luck, mostly due to a mere 2 years of junior college, which I still just have 2 years of junior college, except for a few extra classes. Where am I? Okay, due to a mere 2 years of junior college on my resume and being a stay-at-home mommy for 3 of those years, no one would consider me really. They just thought I was silly. I had a series of part-time and freelance jobs that were just not going to allow me to support myself. But Charley took me in. He saw the diamond in the rough. He encouraged me to work for myself, freelance. He said that I could benefit better by having my own business. In a word, he taught me to be independent. That was the greatest gift of all. And I absolutely needed that for my ego, going through a divorce, etc. It's always tough. With his mentoring, guidance, and encouragement, I was able to develop an actual career beyond my dreams. It was the greatest gift. Can you imagine me being an entrepreneur? But we did it. The next part of the story is pretty amazing in how it all came together. Several months later, after working side by side with Charley, creating TV guide ads for Channel 10, brochures for the San Francisco Community Center, and numerous other printed materials, in walked this guy called Terry Vitello. This guy looked like something out of a comic book. He had a mustard-colored leisure suit, pants that were really too short, off-color and out-of-style tie, and an Adam's apple to outdo Gomer Pyle. What in the world? But this guy changed our lives. Like Charley, Terry was also from New York, goofy looking, but we found out later, a genius. Initially, Terry was looking for work as a creative writer. Charley always had the uncanny ability to find the jewel in the rough and gave him a chance. He gave him a small writing project. They hit it off. Terry did a great job. The end. But the following week, Terry came back. He'd been talking to a lot of different people, and he had a lead. A new bank was in formation called First Commercial Bank. It's still in existence, but they've changed the name to First Bank, and I still go there. Anyway, the bank was taking proposals from agencies to advertise their bank. That meant TV, radio, newspaper ads, magazine ads, billboard, the works, just everything. And Terry decided to share this incredible opportunity with Charley. Terry could have offered this lead, really, to anyone. He was talking to a lot of different people. But he chose the one person who gave him this job. So both immediately went out and bought new suits, thank God. They needed them. And they went to hopefully schedule an appointment for a formal proposal. The bank agreed to see our agency and see our portfolio the following Monday. That was 4 days away. We had no agency portfolio. So we worked day and night for those 4 days, creating not only all of the creative for TV, radio, and print, but Terry also wrote the slogan for the bank and programmed a little Texas Instruments calculator. Remember, no computers in '79, not really any that were easy to work with, and certainly no personal computers, in order to select the best media buys. And a media buy is where you decide based on where the commercial is going to be, whether that's that's a good quality spot for your customer at a good quality price. There's a lot of math involved. Anyway, he programmed this little calculator, believe it or not, and then we were all critical members of the team in order to blossom into a full-blown agency, and Charley had the insight to leap for this new and exciting opportunity. As a result, we landed our very first client. We rose as the leading advertising agencies in Sacramento in the late 70s and 80s. Our agency name was, I say Coppola, he would say Coppola. Coppola, Vitello, Sava Advertising. Sava, of course, was me. What I've always loved about Charley is this: he never, ever shrank from a new possibility. He was amazing that way. He was never racked with indecision or fear of failure. It was pretty amazing. His favorite line was, "What's the worst that can happen? We fall down, we get back up. Big deal." Terry, due to some financial problems with some mysterious men who came to our office one day, decided to take his leave. And that's another story. Anyway, he sold his part of the agency for $1, and this was only about 2 years after we first opened. Anyway, I won't go on about Terry. That's a story in itself, but this is about Charley. At any rate, we were left with lots of work and faced with either dissolving the company, going back to graphic design, or simply rising to the challenge and keeping it together. And with his encouragement and his confidence, let's go for it, let's try to keep these agency clients and make it work. So losing him was a big deal, but Charley, being the smart and clever man that he was, paid very close attention to Terry when he was there and found ways to make it work. He figured it out on his own. He's a sharp guy. Instead of Terry's way of buying ads or media, Charley befriended the media sales guys and managed to finagle the best TV buys, radio and newspaper. He's a people person. And we continued to thrive. We kept the agency running for another 10 years, 12 years in all. Eventually, the climate of advertising changed and became more competitive. All of a sudden, there were teams of specialists that formed agencies. Our team consisted of Charley, me, and a paste-up artist. Those big agencies were a little difficult to compete with. More agencies were forming, more competition. Eventually, it was difficult to remain profitable without growing, and we simply couldn't find the right mix of specialists. So Charley and I decided to close the agency. It was a very difficult decision at the time. So he left, and I maintained the clientele who were interested in utilizing my graphics. And so I opened my own design studio at that point. Excuse me. Meanwhile, Charley found work buying printing. He was, for the next 10 or 12 years, a print buyer, a print salesman, and later a golf products salesman and writer for 2 large golf magazines. He wrote a monthly column for Golf Today magazine. You may have heard, a lot of you golfers, I'm sure, have heard of it. Reviewed golf products, and as a result was never short on golf clubs, golf shoes, golf clothes, golf gizmos, or anything else related to golf. His room and home attest to his passion for golf. Once he discovered golf, he gave up fishing, boating, and pretty much any other outdoor pursuits. He just loved it. He was hooked. So if you have had a conversation with Charley, undoubtedly you have talked about golf. So that pretty much summarizes Charley's work life. Upon retirement, Charley was trying to think of volunteer work that he could find interesting and worth his time. He had always had an interest in law enforcement. In fact, if he had his life to live over, I think he probably would have pursued that field. He had first applied to the Sacramento Police Department, where he did a variety of tasks to unburden the short-staffed officers. He made many friends, and some of his best buddies are from SPD volunteer work. Some of them are here today. Additionally, he checked into volunteering for the CHP Academy. He was given many tasks that he enjoyed very much, but what I think he enjoyed the most was the scenarios that the students were tested on. Charley enjoyed working with the staff and helping the students become fine young officers. He had the most admiration for the CHP in general and felt a kinship in brotherhood of the organization. Charley also was very musically talented. He played the piano during his time in the service, just kind of tinkered along and did beautiful piano playing, mostly jazz. He loved classic jazz and big band music. When I first met him, he played classical guitar with his fingertips, his fingernails. Anyway. First, he played the classical guitar, and that's kind of what got me, Classical guitar is really very romantic, I have to tell you. So, here we go. He probably never knew this, because actually I don't ever remember him talking about it, because he was like 1, probably the last time I saw his dad, or probably the most 4. But in researching Charley's childhood, his own father played the guitar. He played just about anything with strings, apparently. So that's how he came by it, I guess. After many years of not playing his guitar, he recently bought a new one, a newer and better one than the one he had, and took more lessons. He loved tinkering around with it and making up his own melodies. He even created his own music and lyrics for our niece, Kaylee. She's not here, but Sydney is here. Where's Sydney? I can't see with my reading glasses. Anyway, Kaylee couldn't make it, unfortunately. But he created his music and lyrics for Kaylee, and as a high school gift, had me go to Denver, because I was going anyway, for her graduation, and gave her this DVD, and I filmed her listening to it. It was so sweet. So he's incredibly, incredibly thoughtful. So honestly, I will miss the strumming in the afternoons. I was just, especially when I was still working, I would be back in my office and I'd hear the guitar playing, and it was lovely. Getting back to the story about leaving his family in New York leaving his family in New York in the early 70s, one day in 2002, Charley received a phone call from a man called Tom Riley. The name was familiar, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Turns out it was his distant cousin on his grandma's side. They were childhood friends who were more like brothers. It's a wonder that they never kept up their correspondence. I could never understand that. So there is an end to this story. Charley and Tom, or as they like to call themselves, Dinny and Bimmy, were ecstatic about finding each other. For the very first time, Charley and I took a trip to New York. I'd never been to New York. Charley fell in love with his long-lost Bimmy all over again. It was like a rebirth for him, who had truly no family that I ever knew of. It was the happiest I think I ever remember him being. The picture you're looking at, this picture up here right now that you're looking at, was taken at that period of time when they had found each other, and he was so incredibly happy. You can really see it on his face. We visited a couple of times, and then 10 years later, in 2012, Bimmy died. He died of a heart attack, and it was a very, very sad time for Charley. So I truly hope they have found each other in heaven. As a side note, his wife has been keeping in touch with me, and she's very much into numerology. The belief that certain numbers have certain meaning. So she said, keep watching for 5, 30, 38 as his birthday numbers. And so almost immediately, she saw, I think it was two of those numbers, and texted me with them. And then she said, and then last night I prayed for Bimmy and Charley to let me know if they were together. So she not only got Bimmy's numbers, but she got Charley's numbers. So that's kind of cool. Makes me happy. Whether you believe it or not, it makes me happy. So everyone who's ever known him will miss Charley. This is going to be a hard one for me to read, but I'm wrapping it up. But what I think I'll miss the most about Charley is his love for me. He was the most loyal man I could ever ask for. So loyal that he always made me feel like the best at everything. I'll miss his compliments. He always seemed to be put me on a pedestal. I'm not sure why, but I'm sure I didn't deserve it. But he seemed to think I was incredibly, incredibly special. Everyone needs to feel that with his or her partner, and far too many don't. I was just extremely lucky to have him as a life partner, someone who was solid and honest and reliable and just loved me without end. Thank you. Okay. That's fine. Okay, you can have it.
Winter needs some water. There's no other water there. Can I say something? Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna sit with Mama. Go sit with Dennis. I think Winter wants to speak. So maybe after me, she will speak. Boy, this is weird. Do I sound okay? Am I loud enough? Yeah? Okay. I just want to thank you all so very much for coming. It's really crazy how in life you really never know how you're going to feel in any given situation until it actually happens to you. I hope that I have the ability to approach every single one of you, whether I know you or not, whether you have the opportunity to meet Charley or not, and thank you individually. All of you set aside your valuable time today. She'll see. Sorry, I didn't know my friend was here. She said she wasn't coming, and I knew she was lying. You set aside, your valuable time today to come support my family, to remember my stepdad, and the extent of my gratitude and my mother's gratitude is beyond description. So thank you very much. I'm not even supposed to be emotional right now. What the heck? I also want to thank Pastor Mike and Pastor Ruth. This entire church, honestly, I have never in my life had a church like I do now. I feel so supported here. It is incredible that we can come here to celebrate the life of Charley with Pastor Mike leading the way. There is no one with more compassion or more authenticity than Pastor Mike. Okay, so the next paragraph that I had prepared was going to go on and on about how I was wearing white today, which, as you can see, I'm not wearing white, so I have to kind of omit this paragraph. The whole idea behind that was Charley would tease me about how I always wore black, because I've always been so fond of black. And I had a black bedroom, and everything was black always. I dyed my hair black. And so he would tease me. He was pretty exasperated with me that I always was so gloomy. So today I was going to wear this white dress for him. But I put it on, and I didn't like it. So I put on the black dress. So at least there's some color in it, and I hope that that pleases Charley, because I'm pretty sure he's here with us right now. And it would please him so much to see us not in gloomy attire, but celebrating him. So I apologize for, I couldn't do the white dress. I'm sorry, I tried. Okay, I gotta stop being shaky. I don't even know why I'm shaky. My mom did such a beautiful job of giving you a brief biography of Charley's life. So I would like to tell you about some of my favorite memories with him. After that, I want to tell you about this past month with him, following his dreadful diagnosis. I promise it will be pretty uplifting, all of it. To me, there's a very silver lining to this story we call life, and when life ends, it is really a new beginning, beyond anything our limited minds can comprehend. So, evidently, I was 3.5 when I met. I was thinking I was 4 or 5, but I was 3.5, I guess, when I was first introduced to Charley, and it is a very foggy memory to me now, but the way I remember it was my mom brought me into his office. He was sitting behind what appeared to be, to me, a very grandiose desk. He looked very different than I had imagined. I was intimidated by his dressy clothes, his big glasses, his dark skin, and his mustache, and his big toothy grin. I promptly hid behind my mama's legs. No amount of coaxing could draw me out or get me to utter a word to him. Little did I know that this strange man would soon be terrorizing me with the likes of neckbirds. Yeah, neckbirds. Okay, what the heck is neckbirds, right? This is something that Charley did with me. Soon after my mom and Charley started dating, he affectionately noticed how crazy ticklish I was. So he took great delight in attacking me with tickles. He was so good at it, in fact, that I could not control my limbs when he came in for an attack. My arms and my legs would flail around out of my control, which meant he could get injured. But to him, the attack was worth the risk. My most ticklish spot, he discovered, was my neck, which you know this as well, right? Don't touch my neck. Yeah, I lost my spot. Oh, so it got to where he could just give me the look. Okay, he could give me this look. He'd bug out his eyes and he'd tilt his head just so. And this is when I knew he was going to come in for the attack. And so just that alone, he wouldn't even have to put his hands on me. Just giving me the look, and I would explode into hysterics, pleading for mercy. This was one of our things when I was young. We had many things. For example, he used to tell me for years and years that one day he and I would go live in amongst the monkeys, swinging in the trees, eating coconuts and bananas. This was our special way of demonstrating our love and our closeness. I think we both imagined a scenery similar to Jamaica. Not any worries or cares in the world, but to just have fun basking in the sun. And this always made me feel very special to Charley, because he only said it to me. He didn't say it to my mom, even though my mom was absolutely and indisputably numero uno in his book. This would have to be my favorite thing of all things about my stepdad. He loved my mom so very much. He elevated her to heights even she didn't believe she could achieve. And by doing so, he helped my mom become a very strong and confident woman who could achieve pretty much anything. Their relationship taught me what true love looks like. They were always so unapologetic and demonstrative about their love, and I loved being in that energy, always. That is something Charley and I always shared, a deep love for my mom. No one came above her, not ever. One of the ways that Charley showed his love for us was with his sense of humor. He always discovered how terribly embarrassed that I could get at a fairly young age. This is kind of a silly story, but I want to make light. I'm going to show you how silly he could be. He was always being so silly. He loved making me wriggle uncomfortably in my seat. So one of the ways he would do this to me was when we were in a drive-thru of a fast food restaurant. He would announce to the speaker our order, and when the attendant rattled back our order over the microphone, he would mimic their gibberish and pull away from the speaker, cracking up laughing as I crouched down in my seat, cursing him. I would turn crimson red with embarrassment, and I'm 99% sure that he did this specifically to terrorize me, which was one of his favorite pastimes. I also think that we probably had our food spit in a time or two. You know, like silly Charley. He was really being silly, but they didn't know that. Another one of his favorite pastimes was to encourage my talents with gushing compliments. Whether it was a painting I had done that he would claim he could not distinguish from my mother's, which, as we all know, my mother is an amazing artist, not me. Or whether he was encouraging me to create an advertisement idea about something that I loved because he was, of course, inspiring me to consider pursuing marketing as he and my mother did. He was always so upbeat and trying to foster my confidence and ambition. Every kid should have someone like that in their lives. I've been very lucky. Not only do I have an incredible father of my own, my dad, Roger, which, there you are. I haven't seen you this whole time. Hi, Dad. I have an incredible father of my own, my dad, Roger, but I had a second father who was very different from my dad. Throughout my childhood, Charley strove to do right by me and loved me unconditionally, by default even, because he loved my mom. Just like my own dad, Charley wanted nothing but the best for me. He cared so much. We might not have always agreed on several issues, but we each respected and cared for one another always. My relationship with my own husband today actually reminds me a lot of my mom and Charley's relationship. I am so fortunate to have found a man that truly and deeply loves me, imperfections and all, and regardless of the trials. This is how Charley loved my mom and me, and that is why, and that is also what my husband does for me today. Thank you, Charley, for showing me that you don't need to have a blood relation to experience that kind of love, just a bond. So this kind of brings me to this last month. After Charley's grim diagnosis of cancer, his decline was scary, scary fast. As my mom has noted in emails and phone calls to some of you, it was a mere 26 days between his diagnosis and the day he passed on August 6th. I feel very strongly that it was no coincidence that Charley chose to move on to the afterworld on my mom's birthday. Many years ago, my grandpa, who I was terribly close to, died on my birthday. It is further evidence of an intangible yet unbreakable bond. During those last few weeks of Charley's life, he did not leave the house. He had so little energy, and he chose not to see anyone other than myself and his grandkids. Something remarkable happened in the last few days of his life. 3 days before his death, he started to leave his lucid state and began to step 1 foot into the afterlife. When I came over the next day with my kids, Everin and Winter, I was captivated. To me, all of his cloaks that tend to conceal a person's true identity had just melted away. All that was left was his sweet, childlike man. In all of his vulnerable splendor, I fell deeper in love with him. He had already entered another world, and I was getting to witness it firsthand. He appeared to see and motion to people who were not there. He appeared to pray. He had some beautiful interactions with his grandchildren. Everin, my son, decided to try to, in his own words, cheer Grandpa up. Do you remember that? Yeah. Yes. He sat directly in front of Charley, on the ottoman at the foot of Charley's chair, and he stared into Charley's big, childlike eyes. He mimicked, copied every movement of Charley's. We all laughed. Huh. Yeah. It was so sweet, so unguarded, so unlike anything Charley and Everin would typically do. Charley asked about someone who was sitting there with us, with the four of us, my mother, myself, Winter, and Everin, but whom none of us could see. I think it is important to mention Charley was on no medication those last few days, as his discomfort had disappeared. After walking the kids and I out to leave, my mom had a profound conversation with him. He promised to help guide her to raise her grandkids. We've always been a great team, they agreed. My stepdad, who had always been clearly atheist, told my mom there was, and I quote, absolutely life after death. He said there were people there waiting for him and that he was ready to go. Charley lasted through the night. I returned the next day to find Charley lucid again. I placed his head in my hands and I kissed him that day. I had my closure. It is my hope that each of us here today acquire the closure that we desire, and to keep in mind, it is only a temporary separation. His spirit lives on, and today we celebrate him. Pastor Mike helped me with a scripture. It's Job 19:25 through 27. For I know that my Redeemer lives, and that in the end he will stand upon the earth. And after my skin has been destroyed, yet in flesh I shall see God. I myself will see him with my own eyes. Thank you so much. Winter, did you want to come up? Come here. By the way, it is at this point that if anybody would like to come up and speak about a story, something funny, something silly, something whatever, about Charley that and maybe you only met him once, I don't know, but if you have any desire to come up and talk, we welcome you to do so. If you don't want to do that, my mom has a scrapbook and we plan to save it, and then you can note in there things about him, sign it. So anyway, my daughter wanted to be the first to speak about Charley. You ready to talk? Yeah? Is this something I can put down? Should I pick her up? Should I pick you up? Okay.
Well,
It's okay. Are you nervous? What did you want to say? You wanted to talk about what he did for you that you loved, right?
yeah.
So just say what he did for you that you loved.
But Mama,
Want me to
I'm
say it?
scared.
Are you scared?
Yeah.
Is it scary up here in front of all these people?
Yeah.
Do you want me to say it?
Winter, are you as ticklish as your mom?
She is. I think that she wanted to talk about a couple of her favorite things about Charley. One was that he would take, no, this was completely without me even knowing it. I would never, ever allow her to do this at home, but I guess grandparents get this privilege because grandparents can spoil their grandkids, right, Dad? He would take, what would he take? What was it out of the fridge? The chocolate, Hershey's, syrup. Do you want to tell them what he would do? What would you do? What would you do? Look like a baby bird? Show them. She would open her mouth like a little baby bird, and he would take the Hershey syrup and squeeze it into her mouth. So that was one of her favorite memories of Charley. What was the other one?
I think Grandma did that last night.
Yeah, oh yeah. Grandma is carrying on the tradition of the Hershey syrup in the mouth, yes. Much to my dismay. Do you have anything else that you would want to say about him? You want to tell me and I'll tell them? The TV?
Yeah.
What about the TV?
TV in the golf.
TV in the golf?
Yeah. And do salutes together.
And the what?
Salutes together.
Oh, yes, I forgot. Do you want to show them how to do the salute? No. Oh, she's so shy now. She was so excited to come up here. But something that she and Charley did that was just special between the two of them is he would salute her and she would salute back. Is that one of your favorite things?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is that it?
Golfing too.
Golfing?
Mm-hmm.
Did you golf with him?
Well, sometimes we golf just like him in the living room.
Yeah? With the little golf
And
clubs?
he also draws.
Oh, yes.
And he teaches me sometimes.
Yeah. He used to draw with Winter, and Winter has, much like her grandmother, she has a lot of artistic talent. And Charley is an artist as well. I mean, of all the things, he did so many things, but he's a beautiful artist. He didn't do it much later in his life, but he did take an art class recently, and it was kind of re-inspiring him to draw and to paint again. And he sat down with Winter one day and showed her how to do like kind of like a basic art class where you use pencil and you do the shadowing and all that, right? And she was just picking right up with it, and so he gave her a special sketch pencil and eraser, and that was his, he says, this is just for your pencil drawings, and so they connected on that creative, artistic level as well.
He also gave me a favorite pen. He also gave me the bestest pencil
The bestest pencil. Yeah.
so that I can draw some stuff.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. Okay.
It maybe moved somewhere. I put it in my first drawer, but it disappeared. Maybe in the cup thing.
We have it somewhere, baby. I'll find it for you. Okay. You want to say goodbye to everybody?
Bye.
Thank you so much. Mwah. Thank you so much. I love you all.
So sometimes, like Winter, it's a little intimidating to come up here and talk. So this microphone right here, for those who would rather be on the level, is free to come up and say something. We'll just give maybe a couple people an opportunity to do that if you're so willing and would love to. Don't be bashful. There we go. Good. Thank you for somebody kicking this off.
Hi, my name is Marty Momoyak. I'm one of several people that had the luxury and the honor of knowing Charley, mainly on the golf course, but certainly a great human being, kind, generous, with his talents, with some of his golf paraphernalia that he frequently shared with us, with his sense of humor, with his friendship and his positive attitude towards us. Not only did he have a great sense of humor, but he was quick to champion a good shot and not allow us to go on about having a poor one. One of the things that I think he helped create was, as we started to form our golf group, he wanted to socialize and bring our spouses with us to meet them for dinners. And that formed a great friendship over about 10 years. And we still meet and we still do things together as a group. We enjoyed Charley's friendship, his knowledge of the game. And also, I think one of the things that Judy and his daughter mentioned, which And all the times I shared a cart with him, I never knew he was an atheist, and I still don't believe that he's one, even though he might have expressed that, because there were times when Charley knew that I was a chaplain, and we would frequently talk about our families. And there were times when I would pray for him, and he was very accepting of that. So, Charley, we wish you well. We'll miss you. We'll look forward to meeting you on the 19th hole one of these days where there's no bogeys and just eagles and birdies. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sue Butler, Judy's close friend and Charley's close friend, bestest BFFs. I think a theme that I've heard over and over again tonight is Charley's generosity. He was extremely generous, and as a friend of Judy's, he was generous to me in his praise when I would do something or create something, or there was a painting or food or whatever. He was very encouraging, and so I thanked him for that. And one of the things that's not talked too much about is Charley's gourmet cooking. He was a fabulous cook. And that was one of the things that kind of I connected with Charley, is I would have him and Judy over for dinner. And knowing how conscientious they were about what they ate, when I ate at their house, it was always this fabulous gourmet, healthy dinner. So when they came over to my house, I would knock them out with this fabulous gourmet, greasy, just the stuff you love. And Charley was always, he loved it. He was just always so grateful and said how much he liked it. And so I really appreciated that about him, and will remember that the most, that he was very encouraging and sweet and generous.
My name is Dennis Nichols. Charley was my friend. Thank you for that biography that you gave us of him. It filled in a lot of blanks. I met Charley in the early 70s, mid-70s, I should say. A friend of mine and we got together and started playing poker. He was a really easy guy to play with. If you know him, he had a great personality, easy to play poker with. But you always ended up on the short end of the stick. And he did a good job of taking your money and smiling. You didn't feel too bad when you left. So he's just an all-around good guy, and he's going to be missed.
I'm going to do it. My name is Beth Schapp. I'm Judy's niece from Denver. And something I remember about Charley is his cooking. I mean, it was fabulous. One time I came to Sacramento from Denver, and Charley, of course, was making all the meals. And he said, "What would you like for dinner tonight?" And I said, "I think I'd like filet mignon and shrimp." And he said, "What time would you like that ready?" I mean, it was just unconditional. It was great. He would just make whatever you ever wanted. And I remember when they had their boat, the first time I got up on water skis, it was with Charley driving. He always made everything really fun when we were here. I don't even know how many times we came every summer when I was a child with my family to visit. It was great fun always. And I've brought my daughters several times to see Judy and Charley and Emily and her kids. And it's a great family connection that we've always had with Charley. Just a great guy, and the secret sign is for the family, but that was Charley's sign.
As you had heard that Charley was part of the volunteer California Highway Patrol, Captain James Newberry is here as well. He is the commander of the volunteers, and he has a special presentation. And as well, James, feel free to share a little bit if you would. Absolutely.
Thank you, Pastor. And right from the outset, I want to let everybody know that I'm 100% in concurrence with the fact that Emily, Judy, it's a celebration of life. To have known Charley, you would know that this is exactly what Charley wanted. I loved him and I will miss him, but I want to explain to you a little bit. A little over 4 years ago, I received a telephone call from the volunteer commander at the CHP Academy who advised me that after begging for many years, they were going to finally start a senior volunteer program at our training academy. And I was asked to interview and hire all the senior volunteers for our academy. And I had over 100 resumes on file, and I called many of them, some of which I eliminated by questions I was asking over the telephone. I brought many in to be interviewed, and the moment I started a conversation with Charley Coppola, I picked him. I knew he was going to be a winner, and I was never proven wrong. As recent as 2 years ago, I received a phone call from Charley. He sent me a couple of emails. He wanted to talk to me. You have to recognize, first of all, our training academy is the pinnacle of what we represent. It's our showplace in the Department of the California Highway Patrol. We have dignitaries from all over the world that visit what I refer to as our 457 acres of bliss. And for all of us taxpayers out there, it was purchased for $16 million in 1973. It's now worth over $1 billion. So for all of us, it was a pretty decent investment. So we really wanted to have, if you will, creme de la creme as far as representation in the senior volunteer program at the academy. And to go back now about 2 years ago, there's a lot of things that senior volunteers can do at the academy and they can't do anywhere else. But conversely, in area offices, there are many things that senior volunteers do in area offices that cannot be duplicated at the academy. And Charley had an insatiable appetite. He wanted to do more. So he wanted to get involved in the myriad of disciplines and opportunities that we have available in area offices. So he asked me if I could possibly intervene and maybe get some opportunities for him to work in a field office. Well, that wasn't easy to do, but I fortunately know a few commanders, and I was able to get him located in our South Sacramento area office also, which he continued to volunteer at the academy. We retained his personnel folder at the academy, and they had to duplicate his personnel folder in the South San Francisco area office. And all the reports I ever received, he was doing a great job down there. Well, that wasn't enough for Charley, so about 6 months ago, he called me again. And he found out that we have a cheaters program. These are folks that come into California and they cheat. We refer to it as a foreign registration program. If you come in and take residence in the state of California and you drive a motor vehicle, you have 10 days to properly register your car in the state of California and get a California driver's license. So you might say, well, why people do not do that? Well, the cost for a brand new $35,000 automobile license plates in Wheeling, West Virginia is a little less expensive than it would be in the state of California. So people cheat, and you throw on top of that insuring an automobile in the state of Ohio or insuring an automobile in the state of California is a little different. So Charley, that intrigued Charley, and we do that in area offices, and it's part of our commercial vehicle department at headquarters. And he wanted to work there. So he came in there and he interviewed, and lo and behold, he was accepted. We had to create another personnel folder. He was accepted. Now he's working at the CHP Academy. Now he's working in the South Sacramento area office. Now he's working in the commercial vehicle department at headquarters on our cheaters program. So he had just a phenomenal appetite for volunteering, wanting to give back to the community. Now, I have a lot of great stories about Charley. I work at headquarters, 7th and Richards, Sacramento, and I have a rule that I eat lunch at the academy at least 3 days a week. And I don't go for the food. They have not quite got up to my In-N-Out Burger standards, but they're working on it. So I managed to find something in the salad line or something I eat. But I go over there because it's a place for me to network with people from all over the state because it is a training academy. We have officers from San Diego. We have non-uniformed people from Fresno. We have people from all over the state. It's a big department, over 11,000 employees. So at any given time, we're not only training cadets, but we're retraining people who are members of our department. So I go over to the academy, not for the menu. I'd much rather stop on Reed and go to the In-N-Out Burger, but I usually make it over to the academy because I want to network. And Charley is one of the reasons that I would frequently look forward to seeing him in the dining room. One of his, as alluded to by Judy, one of his favorite functions in the department was scenarios. Well, this is a training academy, so we have a lot of, there's 69 learning domains for there's a 28-week training program for a cadet to make it through to become an officer in the California Highway Patrol. It's not easy. We can have up to, our shrinkage rate will run from anywhere from 36 to 48%. So a lot of the uniforms, when they get out to do the practical training, which we refer to as scenarios, it's somebody taking the classroom skills and learning how to arrest somebody, learning how to evaluate, is that person under the influence? Is that person possibly suffering from some form of a mental issue? All these things have to be taken into consideration. So senior volunteers play a vital role in these scenarios that we have ongoing in our training academy, and Charley just loved it. I would see him sometimes in the dining room, and I'd say, well, what are you today? He would have some kind of makeup all over his face simulating blood, or he'd have a false sling around his neck where he had broken his arm. And so I would ask him, were you strapped to a stretcher today on a backboard, or were you the good guy? Sometimes he had to play the role of an aggressive person that was about to be arrested. And so he would have a big smile on his face, and he would basically tell me what he was doing. One day he made me so darn mad because I'd come over there because there's something about, sometimes when you get a little older, you think, well, maybe you don't have problems anymore. Maybe you don't hurt anymore. Not true. You still have problems. You still have bad days. I refer to it as a bad day. So I get over there, and I see Charley Coppola's smiling face. So I was having a bad day, and suddenly we're having lunch, and he's having me smile again, and I'm no longer having a bad day. But one day I was having a super bad day, and he wouldn't stop smiling. So I said to him, I looked him right in the eye, I said, Charley, if you don't stop smiling, you're going to break your face. I didn't say I was going to break his face. I said he was going to break his face because he was smiling so much. But that was Charley. That was just understanding and knowing him, that he knew what he did. And one time we had an issue, it wasn't that long ago, we had an issue where, because of all the problems we're having in this great world we live in, we're having a lot of allied agencies come in and a lot of department personnel from all over the state doing some additional training on riot control. So they asked for a wide variety of volunteers, uniforms, non-uniforms, and other people within the department to come out there and be involved in this scenario. And lo and behold, if somewhere along the line, based upon his ingenuity, he was able to cross over the line and get in with the uniformed officers and start doing whatever he was supposed to be doing in their lines, in their ranks. But that was the ingenuity of Charley Coppola. He was able to do things like that. I won't bore you with a lot more conversation, but I do want to leave you with this. And I also have a presentation to make of Charley's badge to Judy, and we're very honored to do that. But I want to make this statement to you. We're all God's children, and to live our lives and make a small footprint is something for all of us to be very proud of. I would say to Charley Coppola, in his years with the California Highway Patrol, he made a gigantic impression, much larger than a footprint. And what do I mean by that? We graduate at any given time 250 up to 400 officers a year that join the ranks of the people of the state of California protecting all of us. And he was there for over 4 years involved in these scenarios. So what he started, he has made a lasting impression. what he did in training these cadets, these young men and women who later put their hand up and took an oath to put down their life. And this will perpetuate for decades and decades and decades to come, because he had a touch with so many uniformed personnel who are now associated protecting all of us throughout the state of California. So when I say, I don't say it lightly, he did not make a footprint. He made us an outstanding impression on his years with the California Highway Patrol. He will be missed, he will be loved, he touched my life. As I continue on in my life, there won't be a moment that goes by. At some moment I will think, oh wow, Charley would have done this, Charley said this, Charley did that. That's the kind of man, that is what we're all celebrating today. Now, having shared all that with you, I have the honor, I'd like to ask Judy to please come up. I'm going to put my cheaters on. I always prefer to speak extemporaneously, because I feel that if it's not in my heart, then if I have to read it from a script, then I'm really not telling you exactly how I feel. So I prefer to come up here as I knew Charley, as I know how he affected the Department of the California Highway Patrol. That's the story I want to leave you with. But I have to read this. It's rather tattered. It's the same one I used when volunteer Coppola took the oath to become a senior volunteer in the California Highway Patrol. And this is what he repeated as I gave it to Charley. It says, I would tell the entire group of new volunteers to repeat after me, and they would say as follows: I, Charley Coppola, a senior volunteer with the California Highway Patrol, subscribe in word and deed to the following: to serve the United States of America and the state of California honestly and conscientiously, and fulfill my oath as a volunteer, to uphold and maintain the honor and integrity of the California Highway Patrol, be loyal to my fellow volunteers, respect and obey my seniors in rank, my personal conduct should at all times be above reproach, and I will never knowingly commit any act that will in any way bring discredit upon the California Highway Patrol or any member thereof. To all this, I do solemnly pledge my sacred honor as a senior volunteer of the California Highway Patrol. Now, that's the oath that Charley Coppola took. But I want to leave you, I saved this deliberately for the last year, I want to leave you with a little bit of humor, because that was Charley. That was a pretty solemn oath, and we all take that, and I was very honored and proud to administer that to Charley Coppola. But I've been saving my best Charley Coppola story for last. I showed up to the Academy early and this probably was about a year and a half, 2 years ago, for lunch, and Charley Coppola occasionally filled in at the front counter and answered the phone. And so I walked in and I looked up there, and Charley has got 4 stars on his collar. He may have told Judy about this, I'm not sure whether he did or not. Well, 4 stars on your collar is the rank of the Deputy Commissioner of the California Highway Patrol. The only person out to rank that is 5 stars, and that's Commissioner Joe Farrell. And there were a lot of people around, and he was answering the phone, he was greeting people and having guests log in and all that, and I'm walking around looking over my shoulder, and I didn't want to embarrass him, so I waited for a moment to get him off to the side, and I said, what in the world are you doing with 4 stars on your collar? I said, do you have any idea in the world? We have commissioners and chiefs and all kinds of high-ranking officials coming out of the Academy at all times. Did you have any idea what will happen to me when the phone rings saying, Newberry, there's some volunteer over at the Academy wearing 4 stars, why? So I discreetly got him off to the side, and he said, well, he said, they bought them for me over at the Post Exchange, and they wanted me to have a little fun. So to this day, and again, it probably was 2 years ago, I never found out who bought the stars and who put him up to it, but I never let him forget it. So for about probably a 3.5-hour period, he outranked 99.99% of the employees of the state of California Highway Patrol. So that was, again, Charley Coppola. So now, having said all that, we love him. On behalf of Commissioner Joe Farrell of the California Highway Patrol, we proudly wear this badge. It has his ID number on it. It's never reissued to anybody else. And it is my honor, on behalf of Commissioner Farrell, to give Charley Coppola's badge to Judy and this will be held in perpetuity for the family forever. Thank you very much. Thank you, Judy.
So we never know when the Lord calls us home. We don't have that choice. It's not something that we get to pick and choose about. It's always His call. And while sometimes we don't get to understand His timing in things, and things that seem so wrong at times, I want to just leave you today with a couple thoughts real quick. Out of the book of Romans, while it seems so unfair to us, Paul says to the church in Rome, who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or danger or sword, even death? For I am sure that neither death nor life nor angels nor rulers nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor anything else in all of creation will be able to separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord. I hope and just pray that you would consider those impacting words. God loves you. God loves Charley still today. That hasn't changed, and it's not going to change. And God will carry you through the difficulties. I guarantee it. He will walk right next to you as you journey in the days to come. The sages of life explain to us about God and our pain and the time of death. And let me just share it to you in a very short story. The famous story in the Talmud, which is a Jewish book of teaching, recounts how a great rabbi endured the loss of his two sons. And the story goes that the two boys passed away from an illness on the Sabbath. And Rabbi Meir's wife wanted to break the news to him gently. And so she asked her husband a question. Someone gave me a treasure to guard for them. But now he's asked for the treasure back. Must I give it to him? And the rabbi answered, well, of course you must return the treasure to its owner. And with that, his wife led her husband to their deceased children and explained that the true owner had come for them. And the simple lessons that we're going to learn out of something simple as this is to cherish every moment that you have in life with everyone that's around you, because you just never know. Our greatest treasures are maybe sitting right next to us. The second thing that I believe is really important as we encounter a day like today is that sometimes we just don't ever know what God has in mind, but there comes a time when we have to let go. We simply have to let go and take comfort in the knowledge that our loved ones are taken home by the owner and the creator of life. There is a piece of music that Judy would like you to hear, somewhat meditative, if you will, with those thoughts in your minds. We want to play for the next couple of minutes, and then we're going to pray and go. But hear this music, if you would, just in a moment of quietness. I just feel during this time, I want to invite those of you who are family or close to just to come and gather around them right now while this music plays. Spectacular piece. As a tribute to Charley and in his remembrance, it seems so important to close this time together honoring him, honoring his family that he has left. So pray with me if you would. Almighty God, you who gives mercy and grace and love so freely, we would ask right now as a congregation that you would just place your hand in your peace. Place them around and upon and within Judy and Emily and the family. As we hear this tribute of music, we can't help but think that this is exactly what Charley would have wanted. That the close family, the friends that gather around, will continue to embrace and to love and to uphold that which he cannot do for right now. So Lord, we lift this time to you and ask you to continue to bring peace and strength. Be strength for Judy. Help us to be encouragers. Thank you for the life that we've been able to experience in Charley's person, that which you created, that which you gave to us for a short time. We celebrate today, Lord, all that he had done and that he has impacted. And today, Lord, now we surrender him to you. He is yours. Thank you for what he's left behind. We honor you even as we honor him. And we ask, Lord, for your provision in this family's life for all the days to come, because we've asked in the name of Jesus and the wisdom of the Holy Spirit. Amen and amen. If you did not yet sign the registry, please be sure to do so. It's right out there in the exit doors of the foyer. And of course, following right here at Charley and Judy's home is a potluck meal. You're welcome to come. Love to have you come and stop by, whether it's just for a moment or not. Would you stand with me? I encourage you from the get-go to remember that in the days to come, be a voice, be an encouragement, be a card, be a short note into Judy and Emily's life. Somehow, some way, just be an encourager. And don't forget about them. God bless you as you go. Enjoy. There'll be times where you remember those stories. Share them. Don't forget them. You're welcome to come down and just greet and just enjoy the company just for a moment. God bless you if you will. You are dismissed.